While many South Africans remain highly indebted as they continue to struggle to survive under the pressure of rising interest rates and inflation, more people are starting to seek help to manage their growing debt burden. That's one of the findings out of DebtBusters Debt Index for the first quarter of the year. And for more, I am now joined by the head of DebtBusters, Benay Sager. Benay, thank you for your time this morning. A 40% jump in the demand for debt counseling by South Africans in the last quarter, according to your index. Talk us through that and some of the key findings there, but also paint a picture of us of what consumers are going for debt management services.
Thank you for having me on the show to talk about this important topic. As you said, a significant jump in terms of the inquiries for debt management services, and I think it's a telling sign of the times. I think the first thing I would like to talk about in terms of the consumers seeking this help is these are responsible consumers who've basically realized they need help to manage their debt and they need help to get into a sustainable financial position. And they're doing the right thing by owning up to the fact that they want to repay back their debt and they want to do it in a restructured way, in an affordable way to them. In terms of the makeup of the consumer, I think what we're finding more and more is that especially those earning 10,000 Rand or more or taking on 10,000 Rand or more on a monthly basis, they are needing to borrow and especially borrow personal loans to make ends meet. And, you know, one of the statistics is almost 100%, 96% of the people who applied for the debt counseling services during this period had a personal loan, which, you know, tells us that our consumers are needing to supply their incomes. And if you look at the overall debt levels, they're needing to spend about 2/3 of their take-home pay to service their debt, which is, I think we can all accept, that's impossible to do on a sustainable basis. And the other thing we're finding is that the salaries on average haven't really moved that much in the last several years. And this is the reason why consumers are feeling the need to supplement their incomes. Because one has to remember, inflation, the impact of inflation over the last 7 years in a compounded way has been about 40%. It's a big impact. But over this period, I think many people's salaries have not gone up that steeply. And I think what's happening is that often a lot of the services that we rely on, electricity, petrol, rates and so on, have actually increased a lot more than the 40% over the last few years. And I think this is why more and more consumers are essentially tapping into services to help them manage their debt in a sustainable way.
And Bernie, of course, those rising interest rates and inflation having that dual impact on the latest data. But one of the positive indicators in the index is that 92% increase in younger consumers subscribing to online debt management tools to manage their debt more proactively. So that's certainly encouraging, is it not?
It's definitely very encouraging for us, and this is a journey we embarked on for the last several years. I think we recognize that for many consumers, they may wake up a bit late in terms of managing their debt. The fortunate thing with our younger consumers, particularly those younger than 35, is that they're much more proactive. They are very much driven to digital tools to help them understand their debt, help them understand their credit, help them understand how to manage it on a sustainable basis. And over the years, we've built a number of tools for them to be able to do this on their own and at their own time. And I think that's the important thing. They can look at their profiles at their own time and understand how to do the budgeting and work with it. And I think, as you rightfully said, if we catch the future generations at an earlier age in terms of having a relationship with debt, we all have to have it. I think that's the reality. Just accept that we're going to have a relationship with debt. But if we get them earlier on in the cycle, when they're younger, we have a much better chance when they're 40, 45, 50 years old in terms of being able to manage their finances. And I think we find that very encouraging.
But regardless of consumers being proactive when it comes to managing their debts, they do continue to face a really tough time, and even tougher if we go according to economic forecasts and what is to come when it comes to the state of the economy. How can we continue to rein in on our reliance on debt when our income does not stretch over our expenses and financial obligations, Bernie, that includes, of course, debts?
Yeah, this is an important question. It's a difficult one to answer. I would try to answer it. I think we need to think that our life goes through different cycles, and we need to also think that interest rates and inflation are one of those cycles. So right now, interest rates are higher than they have been. And they may go up a little bit more, and they may stay at these elevated levels for a period of time, for a year or 2 years. We don't really know. However, as you said, we all need debt, we all need credit, and credit is the brighter side. It becomes debt when it becomes difficult in terms of the burden of managing it in a sustainable way. My number one recommendation would be for everyone that try to budget in your head for a day where interest rates would be high, and try to budget for a day when interest rates will not be as high. Let me give an example. So we have many consumers who took out bonds and financed vehicles during 2020 and 2021 when interest rates were much lower. And now those consumers are seeking our help because the expected payments for their bonds and vehicles are much higher. For example, if you have a bond of 500,000 Rand and a finance vehicle of about 150,000 Rand, which is many of the profile of our consumers, you are now needing about 3,500 to 4,000 Rand extra per month to service that debt than you did 2 years ago. Now, I would urge all consumers, that's a lot of money, and I think it's very difficult to come by. But I think when consumers are making such considerations, when they are committing to especially assets where interest rates move up and down, just budget some extra amount of money on the side so that you can use it when things get tough, like now. That would be my number one recommendation. It's a long effort. It's not something that we can fix every day, but I think today is the best day to start it.
Let's leave it there, Bernie. Of course, that is DebtBusters head Benay Sager.